everyone, and welcome to another great episode of Uncanny Media, the show. It's me, your good buddy Spider, doing the thing. I'm doing the thing. This is what we do. We're doing the thing. It's all luck tonight. It's double sevens, 77, coming up all sevens, lucky sevens. I don't know where that started. I'm a numerology person, and seven is a number of spirituality and spiritual knowledge and spiritual awakenings. So I don't know how it got to be a lucky number per se, unless, you know, a spiritual awakening makes you lucky or is good luck. I don't know. It's an interesting way to start the show, isn't it? A little bit of history, a little bit of knocking around, that kind of thing. What are we doing? What are we doing tonight? Last week's episode, we had a really in-depth topic. It dominated most of the show, and I don't think we're gonna have that this week. This week we got some scattered things. We got more news from the local wildlife. They're becoming a frequent topic on my podcast here. They're becoming a frequent topic. If I named names, they would be getting pretty infamous at this point. But I don't name names, and I'm not going to make them famous. I don't think they really deserve it, to be perfectly honest, you know? I don't think they do. Um Weather report. Weather report. What do we got? Weather report. It's been it's been raining and storming a lot lately. We've had a lot of nothing real bad. Like this, it hasn't been storming in a way that I've been worried about the power going out or anything like that. But the weird thing about it is when the power goes out, it's usually during clear weather. It's not often that the power actually goes out during rough weather because the rough weather here is not attacking the grid. The rough weather has to attack where the grid is situated, like the substations and whatnot, in order to cause an issue. So sometimes we'll have completely clear, nothing going on, but there will be a storm around the substations and that takes our power out. Excuse me. We haven't had any sort of power issues here. Not for a while. But it has been raining a lot. It's been raining a lot. There's been a lot of storms coming through. I guess in the surrounding areas, they've had it pretty rough. There's been wind that's picked up people's houses, almost tornado kind of activity, but we haven't had anything like that here in my town, which is good. I have an inkling as to why, but I'm not going to throw it out there because I think that deserves its own episode. Um, I'm not talking about like HARP machines and that kind of stuff. We're not talking about weather manipulation by technology. We're not we're not going to get into that. That's for this uncanny Earth, which by the way will be coming back September 5th, I believe, for our new season with some pretty interesting stuff. We're changing up the formula a little bit. We're currently on our seasonal break. But you know me, I've always got something going on. I'm still continuing the show. I'm still continuing my YouTube channel. I'm still continuing my Twitch stuff, and nothing really stops. We don't take days off unless we absolutely have to. Here at the Uncanny Media headquarters. So how are you folks doing? It's been an interesting few weeks. There are a few people out there I know who were having some great days a week or two ago. They were all hyped and they were, oh, we've got big news coming up, and now they're kind of quiet. Now they're kind of like, oh, well, our big news didn't really go the way we wanted, and we're kind of just struggling for relevance right now. So if you're one of those folks, by all means, you can come over and listen to my show. My show is always relevant. My show continues to grow. My show My show is the show. Uncanny Media, the show. That's why all of you fine people are listening. So let's get into some things. Let's get into some things. Quick update from last week's episode. People are still complaining about the new Halo remake, the game that is apparently so divisive that no one can agree on what the high points and low points are. I took a look at the numbers. Somebody's been posting the numbers, like the sales and the pre-orders and the Game Pass plays, and it looks pretty solid. I think it's doing pretty well. I I think it's doing pretty well as far as getting its money back. It's the first Halo game that was on PlayStation because Halo typically was always a um, an Xbox exclusive, and now they opened it up for crossplay for both PC and for PlayStation. Now there was a PC edition of Halo back in the day, but it was kind of a side note. It didn't come out immediately; it came out many years later, um, and you could fit it on like a USB stick, so it wasn't real big. It wasn't real involved. But it's been on PlayStation for the first time, and apparently the PlayStation numbers are lower, of course, than the Xbox numbers, and people are taking that as, oh, well, PlayStation finally got it, and it just flopped, man. Maybe it's because people on PlayStation play different games. PlayStation has always been about, oh, exclusive this, exclusive that, and so there's been a lot of elitism, and I think a lot of people on PlayStation, when they saw that Halo was coming, were kind of like, nah, we don't care. It's an Xbox game, and we're PlayStation for life, so we're not even going to try it. We're not even going to play it. And I think that's really, you know, it wasn't designed for PlayStation, and I don't think it's going to do its best there. And then other people are saying, oh, it's on PC, the Steam numbers are abysmal. Well, Steam is not the king of gaming. Steam is not the end all be all of who's playing what. I dislike anytime I'm talking to somebody about whether a game has been successful and somebody starts bringing up, oh, well, on Steam it only has such and such concurrent players. Well, that's if it was a game designed for console and it just happens to be on Steam and PC as well, then of course the numbers are going to be garbage on Steam. Steam is not the decider. A lot of people play Steam because of discounts and low prices, not necessarily because you get great games. Somebody's going to argue me about it. Somebody, oh, you just said that Steam doesn't get any great games. That's not what I meant. I said that more people place on Steam because of its discounts and low prices, and not because of its big games. When they have them, when they don't have them is irrelevant. It's the prices that make the difference on Steam. And that's got nothing to do with console sales. Console sales are completely different. Console plays are completely different. So, regardless. But yeah, people still arguing about Halo. We're not gonna relitigate that topic tonight. That's not important for tonight's discussion or discussions. I do want to make a quick point here too. I've been doing some legal things, and I'm not at liberty to really talk about it that much. Which really bums me out because Uncanny Media is built on three pillars: transparency, authenticity, and consistency. You can trust me to be transparent, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on when it's going on. You can trust me to be authentic, and then I'm going to be telling you the truth, and what you see is what you get. And you can trust us to be consistent. We're going to follow the same rules that we always follow. We're going to keep pumping out content every day. You can rely on us. Those are our three pillars. And so I kind of hate not being able to disclose the details of this. But the thing about legal stuff is there's a lot of privacy laws and there's a lot of attorney-client privilege stuff, and there's a lot of things that if you go beyond those lines, you're shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak. You're causing damage to yourself if you openly discuss things that are still in the process, that are still in the works. And so I can't get into some details, and I'm bummed about it. I would love to tell you. I know you want to know, and I'd love to tell you. When it's all said and done, I will let you in on the secret. It won't be a secret anymore. It has to be now, and that's out of my hands. But I've got legal things in the works to protect my business and myself from unscrupulous people or people who would take revenge on me via legal loopholes or people who would attack what we've got going on here. Now, this goes back to the events of a year ago, last summer. You may remember, and I'm not going to name any names because I'm not going to give anybody any free publicity on this. You may remember that I was hit with a cease and desist over certain things, and we were operating under a different brand then, which that's all been scrubbed away. We haven't been under that brand it's been Uncanny Media since then, and it's been a lot more successful. But this peripherally involves all of that because in the intervening time, I was still getting attacked by certain individuals. And I can't directly say that it was any one particular person because it was all done via proxy, which was by design, I'm sure, so that I couldn't just so that I could not retaliate in any meaningful way. And when I say retaliate, it makes it sound like, well, you did this to me, I'm gonna do this to you, and that's not the thing. I've been put in a position where it's in order to protect myself, I have to do a couple of different things, and if I chose the wrong thing, it was going to play right into their hands, and they were going to use that against me. And that's all legal stuff that happens, and it's really unfortunate. Um, but I've taken steps. I've got legal paperwork that's been filed. I've done some things behind the scenes, and that's the most really that I'm able to talk about as far as confidentiality goes, because that's what the issue is. It's a confidentiality issue. It's not an issue of me trying to hide things from you, because I don't do that, and I don't want to do that. I want to tell you completely exactly what I did, why I did it, why it's going to be successful, and how it's going to help me, but I can't. I'm bound by various legal contracts, which is a good thing, to be honest, because again, there are people out there who are looking for every little thing that I do to use it against me in a legal fashion. And what I've put together is going to keep them from doing that. What I've put together, if they come after me on certain things, it's going to be like a reverse Uno card. They're going to say, hey, well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to say, oh, yeah? Bam. And it's going to put them right on the spot. It's going to back them into a corner. Everything is going to play out the way that I expect it to. So that's what's going on with that. Again, I wish I could be more upfront with you about it. I really wish I could. I'm not allowed to tip my hand, so to speak, because they are listening. They are listening to the podcast. They are looking for things that they can do. So that alone is going to put them kind of on their toes like, oh, is he faking it? Is he making that up? We don't know. Does he have a legitimate something going on? We don't know. So it's going to give them pause. It's going to give them the opportunity to reevaluate their strategy. And we'll see what happens from there. I'm 100% ready for anything else. If it ends up going into some court business, I'm 100% prepared for that. I've got ironclad, completely ironclad. Again, I cannot go into those details. but I am fully protected. No one is going to attempt to take down my business or take money out of my pocket illegitimately via this avenue ever again. I can guarantee that. I can guarantee that. So that's that. I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to make sure that everyone knew, again, because of transparency, authenticity, and consistency. You all deserve to know where we're at, what we're doing, and what we've got going on. I mean, it doesn't it doesn't matter as much as it would if, like, if you folks were paying us for anything. Like if there was a revenue stream where, hey, we're paying subscription services and we're supporting your business, I would feel really dirty not letting you in on how that money was being spent. Right now, all the legal stuff is being spent out of my pocket. It's being spent out of my pocket, which is good because it means you're not on the hook for anything. I'm not going to ask you for any donations. I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to post a legal fund on GoFundMe or anything like that. Don't worry about it. I'm never going to ask you to cover the legal stuff ever because I got it. These other people are going to lose, and so it's going to cost me a lot less than it's going to cost them. Enough of that. I've given them enough to speculate about. I've given enough explanation. Hopefully, they take that as a warning, as a means to just maybe we should just let sleeping dogs lie. Maybe we should let this one go. We'll see what happens. These people aren't known for making the most informed decisions. They don't make smart decisions. If they did, then we wouldn't be in this situation. But we'll see. Maybe they'll choose the right path from here on out. Speaking of choosing the right path, let's talk about the local wildlife. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This has been a topic of conversation that we've had multiple times on this show because it's an ever evolving situation that continues to just turn into the town's biggest dumpster fire. And there's so many people throwing kerosene on this dumpster fire, not really understanding that it's just the wind is going to shift and it's going to fly back and burn them in the face. You may remember that I've talked about a person. We're going to call him Mr. Nice Man. Mr. Nice Man. He's anything but a nice man, but we're going to call him Mr. Nice Man. He runs the a page called the Hall of Shame, and it's designed to, as he describes it, call out corruption in this city and put people on the spot and advocate against child trafficking, and it's a big hodgepodge of various grievances. Okay. And I even agree with some things on it. I agree there's things in the town that need to be changed. I do agree that things in this town are not perfect. That certain people who are in charge of how things happen in the city, excuse me, are not spending their money wisely. They're not spending the tax money wisely. They're not making good decisions. So I agree with him on those kind of things. And he goes on and on about child trafficking. And you know what? I am against that, obviously. Who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be against that? You know? It's not a debate. But his language and his methods and his approach are all just they're bad. They don't accomplish anything. They're all a bunch of jokes. It makes it look like a clown show, and the whole thing looks more and more like a clown show every single week because new things come out and they react to it and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing and they're making it up as they go along and they think they've got all these stacks and stacks of evidence of this and that, but you never see it. You never see the stacks of evidence unless it's specific things that people have said online about them. They've got all kinds of screenshots about that. All kinds of personal, oh, so and so called me this. I've got the screenshots to prove it. Okay, that's got nothing to do with your stated goals. That's just you personally. But um, but Mr. Nice Man, he uh, he runs the Hall of Shame page. It's a play on the Hall of Fame because we have the NFL Hall of Fame here, which has been a bit of an annoyance for me. You know, I've had my grievances with that, but that's besides the point. He routinely goes to the local city meetings with signs and whatnot, and he acts up and he yells and he shouts and he calls people out, as he says, and causes a problem. And it's because he did this many, many, many weeks ago that the city council barred the public from speaking at the city council meetings, which is a pretty big deal because the council meetings are open to the public and there's always a point during the meeting where they allow the public to come up and address grievances, which is important. Whether they listen or not is not the point. It's that you get to come out and be like, hey, the potholes are bad, or there's too many drugs in the city, or there's crime, or there's this, and I want you guys to do something. Knowing how your public feels is a valid metric. Whether, again, whether you agree with it or not, and whether you're going to do anything about it, that's a whole other ballgame. But the opportunity for the people to come up and speak their mind is vital to the running of the city, I think. But this guy would come through, he'd shout and scream, he'd incite his followers who would send emails or make calls or badger people and make threats. And he's famous for saying that he doesn't make threats, he doesn't incite violence. But he always says things like, we need to run down to the courthouse and put boots to throats. And that sounds like a threat, right? It sounds like a threat. Even if he says afterwards, I don't mean literally, I mean blah, blah. No, it's when you say things like that, people hear that and they're like, yeah, let's go down there and let's put our boots on their throat. Let's hold them down and make them accountable. Okay, that sounds like a threat. It's less how you meant it and more that you said it. Your meaning is secondary. Your meaning is secondary to the words that were said and the words that were heard. So one of the most recent times he was arrested because they threw him out of a meeting and according to him, he put a foot on the step of the courthouse. He says he wasn't trying to get back in. And you know what? I do believe it. I do believe that maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just like resting his foot on there. But they saw that and they claimed that that was trespassing because they'd removed him from the building, so they charged him with trespassing. I can see his point, but he was pushing it. He had already been thrown out. He was still shouting. He was still yelling. He was still belligerent. He gave them a reason to arrest them. It's his own fault. Whether he was actually trespassing or not is beyond the point at this juncture. You know, he gave them a reason to charge him and to arrest him. So he spent the night in jail. He calls it abuse of power and a bunch of other stuff, of course, and so it goes to court. There's initial hearings about it. He takes a tape recorder in secretly to record the meetings between himself and his lawyer at the courthouse, and then he says he's going to put that evidence on the internet on his he does a weekly live where he complains and rants and raves about all the ills and things that have happened. And unfortunately uh, it's not illegal, but it's breaking attorney-client privilege, and he can easily lose his lawyer and lose his representation. And he also tried to make his own motions around his lawyer's back. And the court said, no, you can't do that. You can't just, you have to go through your lawyer. Your lawyer has been appointed for you because you didn't have one and you couldn't afford one, so we appointed one. You have to go through him. That's how the process works. If you don't, then you're going to be held in contempt and then you're going to summarily lose your case. They subpoenaed a bunch of people. They set a jury trial for like sometime in September. And at the latest hearing, he pled no contest, which is not admitting guilt, I know, but it's still like, I don't want to have a trial. I'm not going to fight this anymore. So he took an easy way out. I think he knew that if he went to a jury trial, he was going to be found guilty because they found him guilty anyway. He pled no contest. They found him guilty. But because he'd spent the night in jail, they let that be his sentence and they gave him a $75 fine. And they said, if you've got good behavior for 2 years, this is it. It doesn't go any further. So he's been crashing out, as the kids say. His lives have been yelling and screaming and shouting and foaming at the mouth and just because obviously the city targeted him on purpose, right? That's his thing. They targeted him on purpose for uh for what he's trying to say, for what he's accusing them of, for speaking the truth. For speaking the truth, he's being targeted. And it's not really true. He's a belligerent asshole. Is why he's getting in trouble because he's belligerent and he's causing disorderly conduct and things like that, and he just doesn't get it. They tried. This was this was funny. This was funny. They every year for the NFL National Football Hall of Fame, for people who aren't in the United States, that's American football as opposed to soccer. Okay. But they every year they have an enshrinement ceremony. They have a whole week full of festivities to bring in tourism, to bring in people from out of town, because the Hall of Fame, the football players, and everybody's coming in for all this. So they have parades, they have big events. We have something throughout the summer called First Friday. It's the first Friday of every month in the summer for June, July, and August, I think. I don't know if it's sooner. I don't think it's in May or April. I think it starts in June, July, August. First Friday, where local businesses will have stands outside. They'll have a part of downtown partially blocked off to traffic so people can walk around it like a carnival atmosphere, and you can there's musicians, there's things going on. It's a big deal. Okay? And for the Hall of Fame, they had a First Friday during the Hall of Fame Enshrinement Week. So it was big. It was a double thing. Because this city, and I'm not glorifying this. I need to make a point. This city where I live has a crime problem. I freely admit that. My neighborhood has gotten better than it used to be. Over the course of this podcast, I don't know if you've heard me say that the neighborhood goes in waves. Some years it's really, really awful. Some years it's really, really good. And we've been pretty good for a while. We've got a good, stable set of neighbors on each side. We've got some goofballs here and there, but nobody that's actually causing illegal things. Because I've had bank robbers, I've had drug users, I've had car thieves, all kinds of people living next door, directly next door. And I haven't had that in probably 2 years now, which is amazing. And I feel pretty good about it. But the city as a whole has a crime problem. We've got a large number of homicides that have happened over the last few months. There's a new one that just happened. Two young ladies went missing. They were found in a burning apartment, already having been murdered with gunshot wounds. That's a case they've got suspects and one of them's already arrested, so they're working through the whole thing. But it's a pretty awful thing that's going on, and there's more other than that that's happened. And So for this event, because it was both First Friday and it was the Hall of Fame, and like the outside world is looking in, keeping an eye on us, the city decided they were going to fence off the area and they were going to treat it as if it was a concert event. Now, a concert event, concerts, if you go to a concert, like a big concert festival for Taylor Swift or Beyonce or Nine Inch Nails or Rob Zombie or anybody, there's specific rules now. You can't just carry in whatever you want. You get searched with a wand, metal detector at the gate. You can't bring in any weapons, no knives, no guns, no nothing. Okay. It's just how, because they're trying to keep people safe. I don't know how effective that is because you still hear at music festivals all the time about gunmen that got in and started causing a ruckus. So I don't know how effective it really is, but the reasoning is that these measures are going to keep people safe, right? So the city decided that they were going to do the same thing and they were going to treat it like a concert event. So no opaque bags or coolers or anything like that. If you're going to bring a bag in, you got to have it transparent so they can make sure that you don't have anything smuggled in. No weapons. Common sense stuff, right? Well, this guy and some of his friends decided that that was infringing on their Second Amendment rights because their rationale was, well, the police can't help us because they're incompetent, so we need to be able to protect ourselves, so we need to be able to take our guns into these events. So they organized, well, okay, follow through with me on this. They organized, quote unquote, a Second Amendment rally that they were going to have around the outside of the First Friday event, and they were going to see if they could get in with their guns and etc. Obviously, this was a bad idea to begin with, but they filmed their attempts. They filmed the attempts themselves. So they made themselves look like a clown show. There were probably 7 or 8 of them. 7 or 8 people. Only one of them had a weapon, and what he brought was a muzzle loading musket that weighed like 50 pounds that he carried on his shoulder like a continental soldier. Carried on his shoulder like a continental soldier. And they marched up to each entrance around the entire fenced off area. And every time when they were told, "Oh, you're not allowed to bring that in here," they made a big fuss about it. They made a big deal about it, and they asked, "Who's in charge of all this? Where's the ordinance? Where's this? This is my constitutional rights." Then at one of the entrances, the chief of police was there because he's there with the force enjoying the festivities, and he tried to explain things to them, and they kept shouting him down. And every time they talked to a police officer, eventually the police officers walked away. And they took that as, oh, they're deflecting, they're cowards, or maybe you're yelling at them. Maybe you're shouting. Maybe you refuse to listen. Maybe you refuse. And his whole thing is, we wanted to have a dialogue. Well, then why are you shouting, Mr. Nice Man? Why are you shouting and constantly raising a fuss if you want a dialogue? Nobody's going to have a dialogue with you like that. You're just accusing them of things. You're not asking them any real questions. You're not asking them questions for anything that they can actually talk to you about. You're asking, oh, where's the missing children all across the world? Like this average beat cop is going to know that. Like, come on. It So it was a stunt. It was a stunt. It was a clown show. Local wildlife being a clown show. And on top of this, you may remember in one of the previous episodes, I talked about a person connected with this whole thing. And he had been arrested for the they said he was arrested because it was aggravated menacing, right? And that was the case that it got attached to because He approached someone that he had previously had a court case about aggravated menacing against. He saw somebody on the street, it was that person that he approached them, and he broke the rules of, hey, if you're convicted of this, you don't go to talking to the other person anymore. You have to stay away from them. It's like a um, what's it called? Where you're the 1,000-yard stare, where you're not allowed to be near a person. A restraining order. It was basically like, because that's what happens, restraining order. And so they arrested him, and they tried to make it out like, oh, he was just talking to this person, but it was because he hadn't paid his court fees or his fines from that case from a year previous. So they had racked up and racked up and racked up interest and everything. And eventually they put out a warrant and they arrested him for it. So he was in jail for that. The nice man guy made a big deal about it, like they arrested him for bogus charges, and tried to frame it as it was retaliation when it was just he didn't pay his fines. So he spent like 30 days in jail. They let him out on good behavior, set up a payment plan. He's out. But now he's on the outs with Mr. Nice Man. Now he's on the outs because when Mr. Nice Man went to his court case, this other guy didn't show up for support. Why would he? He's already been through that. He's trying to stay home with his kids. He's trying to pay back the court. He's got problems of his own. But he didn't come out to support this guy who's had his back this whole time. Mr. Nice Man's advice to this gentleman are what got him into the issue in the first place. He's been advising him about how to fight back against family court and all this other kind of stuff, and that's what got him in trouble to begin with. The extra fines on top of that didn't help. So now they're not friends anymore. Mr. Nice Man talked badly about the other young man, and the young man said, "Hey, I still want to be friends. He's still my brother, whatever, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere." Because that's what this guy does. That's what Mr. Nice Man does. He has this phrase that he uses anytime you try to tell him that he's in the wrong, anytime you disagree with him, anytime you try to show him that he's not making as much of an impact as he thinks he is because of the methods he's using, he calls you a, quote, pedophile sympathizer. Which is kind of ridiculous because every single person that doesn't agree with him, it's impossible for every single person to be a pedophile sympathizer. But that's his instant go-to. That's how he treats people. He's a hateful, belligerent person. And if you don't agree with anything that he says, you're a pedophile sympathizer. There's no way to win with him. It's a game that he plays. It's a clown show. And so lately, he's just been throwing fits on Facebook Live, just going crazy about it, just shouting and ranting and raving. And it's just, he's going to end up losing his kids again. That's the whole thing that started this. He had his kids taken away from him for whatever reason. He says it was bogus, and maybe it was. I'm not going to tell him it wasn't. I wasn't there. I don't know. He got his kids back, so obviously he showed them that he could take care of them. Obviously he showed that something was wrong. And I gotta give him the credit for that. He got his kids back and he's raising his kids. But the thing is, the more he starts sniping back, the more he starts clapping back, the more he uses this language, he's going to get himself into trouble. And they're going to end up coming back and saying he's a menace. He's a danger to the city. He's a danger to himself and others. He's not fit to raise his kids. That's what they're going to do. He's going to ruin everything that he fought for and won. He's going to ruin all of that. And he's trying to take other people down with him. And it's just, it's a constant soap opera watching these people go through this stuff. He's not helping. He's not, and he's got this whole crew of people who don't even live here. He doesn't live in the town that he's protesting against. He doesn't live here. He comes in here and he causes a fuss and then he goes back home to the nearby town. And he has other people from New York and from out west and from different places. Somebody's from Detroit, somebody's from Chicago, and they all agree and they're all like, yeah, and they all do the same thing. I think the people here are starting to see through all that. The people here are starting to see that you don't really care about the end goal. You just care about pissing people off, getting other people to try to attack you so that you can retaliate by saying, see, they're coming after me now. La 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 la. And he's constantly going on and on about grifters and about people trying to take your money, and he's not taking your money. He's not. And that's not the point. A grifter isn't all necessarily just a person that tries to get money. It's a person who gets clout. It's a person who gets attention. It's a person who just constantly has to be at the center. And that's him. Mr. Nice Man. It's not his real name, of course, but Mr. Nice Man is a grifter in his own way. Just because he doesn't ask for money, just because he isn't bilking people in scams, he wants the attention. He wants the attention. That's why he shouts so much. And he's angry because the city isn't giving him enough attention. And so he's going to get louder and louder and louder. And when he eventually gets the attention he wants, it's not going to be the way he wanted it to end. He's not going to be able to get out of it. He's not going to be able to get out of it. And that's a shame. And then what's going to happen to his kids? What's going to happen to his kids then? He's going to be right back where he started. It's going to be a sad end to that story. I bet by this time next year, I will have already broken the news to you about what happened. I will have already told you that he's gone to jail or he's had his kids removed or something or he's done something to himself, which is a horrible thing to imagine would happen to anybody. But I think that's the direction it's going. I'm very rarely wrong on this kind of stuff, and it's very unfortunate. I tried to talk to him once, and him and his buddies just weren't listening to it at all. They tried to attack me for things, and I shrugged it off. I didn't get myself into a position where they could attack me any deeper. So they left me alone because they basically felt it wasn't worth their time. Because I don't play the game. I don't fire back. I'll tell you, hey, you know what? This is what I think. And if they get pissy and start calling me names, hey, this what you say. It's not true. You say what you want, but it's not true. But whatever, you keep talking. And they don't like that kind of thing. They want you to argue back. They want you to get fired up. They want you to get angry so they have a reason to say, "See, look at them. They are this way." And I don't do that. I don't play flame wars on the internet. I don't get into arguments like that. I discuss things with people who are willing to discuss things, and if they're not, then I bow out because I'm not. And that's not me being a coward, quote unquote, or running away from a fight. That's me not entertaining a doofus. That's me not becoming a part of the clown show. Because I don't do the clown show. I do not I am not a member of the local wildlife barking at the moon constantly, and I don't plan on starting anytime soon. And some of this you might all be really confused. Like, we don't know who these people are you're talking about. You have so many people you talk about. I get it, but I'm not trying to shame people directly. I'm not. That's why I'm not using real names. That's why I'm not naming and shaming because I don't think that's helpful. I've said it before. I don't think that's conducive to a healthy discussion or a healthy dialogue with people. Now, the final thing I'm going to say about this guy is he's always one of the things he likes to say is that we're building a village because it takes a village. It takes a village to raise our kids and to do this. And I've heard the phrase before, and I have people who are friends of mine who have used the phrase who believe that because it refers to a support network. But I disagree with a lot of it. I think parents, not the village, parents need to be directly responsible for their children. I don't think the village needs to be involved in any way. Unless, of course, you are a single parent and you're really struggling and you need a lot of help and you have to rely on other people. And I get that. I 100% get that. I'm not going to look down on you for that. In that case, you need your village. You need your support network. You need help. But if you are a capable parent, and I'm not saying that single parents are not capable. Again, please don't take this out of context. Even the most capable person can struggle with finances or whatever and have an issue raising a family. Okay? Let me make sure I make myself clear. But I think parents are the starting point for raising good kids. I don't think it takes a village. I think it takes good parents or a good parent. Even if you're just trying your best, I think that counts, being a good parent. Because everything's for them. When you have kids, it's not for you, it's for the kids. Your life has to change. Your lifestyle has to change. You cannot be the same person you were before. You're raising this child. You're raising a whole other life that can't raise themselves. You have to take care of them. You have to step up. You have to do the work. It's not the village's responsibility. It's yours. It is your responsibility. Unless, of course, there are extenuating circumstances and you just have to have the help, which I understand. Then you get your support network. But this guy, he talks about we're making a village and we're teaching our kids this and we're teaching, and everything that he talks about, it's not helpful. You're teaching your kids that when things don't go their way, you shout, you scream, you throw a fit, you antagonize. That's not what you do. I don't want anybody in the village teaching my kid that that's what you do. I don't want any other voices other than mine and my kid's mother telling my kid what's right and what's wrong. And that sounds tyrannical. I get it. Because what if I'm wrong? What if I'm filling her head with nonsense? I get that, but I'm not because I'm teaching her to think for herself. I'm teaching her to ask questions. I'm teaching her that just because I say something doesn't mean I'm not giving her orders when I'm saying, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do this. Don't do that. There's a reason for it. Ask me about it. If you don't understand why I'm telling you not to do it, please ask me. I'll go through the whole process with you. We'll discuss it so you can understand. It's not because I want to control your life. It's I'm trying to raise you to be a good person so that when I'm gone, when your mother is gone, you can take care of yourself. You can do the best that you can do in this world. And I don't want the village to come in with a multitude of different opinions and different ideas and different ways of everything, muddying that up. I don't, that's not helpful. So when this guy says, it takes a village, we're building a village, please keep your village away from me. Please keep your village away from my child. Your village is not responsible for raising my child. I am responsible for that. And if I fail in my duty to do that, by all means, somebody else should step up and take care of that. But I'm not failing, so I don't need your village. And I don't want your village. And I don't want to be a part of your village. Nobody should want to be a part of your village if they're doing their job. Because you can't vet every single person in the village. You can't filter. every single idea. And it makes it sound like I know that I'm saying certain ideas are dangerous, or you shouldn't get to my kids. And you know what? Certain ideas are dangerous, but when my child hears about them, she's going to ask me, she's like, hey, what about this? I heard this thing. And I'm going to say, well, we don't do that because of this. And she might say, well, why? And I'll say, because of this and this and this. And here's some things to look up, and let's talk about it. And let's get into a valid discussion about it. We had to talk about racism yesterday. We talked about racism and intolerance and things because in our household, we don't see people as different races. We see people as people. People are people. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what you believe. You're a person. Some people are pretty garbage people, but you're still a person, you know? And so we talked about it. We had a good discussion about it. And she was like, people shouldn't treat people like that. People should be nice and kind to each other. And I said, that's right. That's exactly what it should be. She's 11 years old and she's not going to grow up thinking that, oh, that person with dark skin next door is bad because all people with dark skin are bad. She's not going to think that. She's not going to think, oh, that person's speaking Spanish. We need to kick them out back to their own country. She's not going to think that. She is going to be open minded. She is going to be respectful. And it's not the village that told her that. It's me. It's me and her mother teaching her values that are important. It doesn't take a village, it takes good parents. And if a good parent needs help, they can then there it's by all means have a support network. Have a support network. And so I because I don't want to be part of any village that tells you that you have to march around town shouting and screaming to get your point across. And I'm not looking down on protests, and I've done protests of my own in the past. I haven't joined the No Kings. I didn't join some of those things. I you pick and choose your battles, and you choose what's important to you. And a lot of that stuff is just for visuals. It's a lot of it just for optics. The No Kings and the Women's March, all that was just for optics. Nothing actually changed. Didn't accomplish anything. It looked good for whoever was filming it. But did it make a difference? Did it really make a difference? Protesting is not like it used to be. Protesting is not a decider of change like it was many years ago. Now you have to go through the channels. You have to find people who are willing to change the laws, who are willing to change the rules, who are willing to make things different. You have to go through the channels. There's no other way. And because the channels are broken right now, I don't participate. I hope one day, I hope one day that the channels will open more fluidly, so to speak. But today is not that day. So I simply don't participate in the political process. I don't participate in protests. I don't put my energy towards things that are doomed to failure. And that's the difference between what I'm doing with Uncanny Media versus what other people are doing who are listening in with their lawyers. Those people throw all of their money into a losing enterprise, into a hole in the ground. And I don't do that. I play to win. I play to win always. So we're winding down. We've talked a lot. We've had a lot to talk about. We got a little fired up. A little fired up. Not bad. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm I feel bad for the people in this town. First for the people who are caught up in this Mr. Nice Man's shouting and his words and his promises. And I feel kind of bad for him for being in the position that he is, for believing that this is the route he has to take. I hope he comes around. I hope he calms down. I hope he just decides, you know what, this is not it. I need to take care of my family. I need to make sure my family doesn't get harmed in any way. I need to make sure that I'm here for my family. And I hope he understands that. I hope he decides and just abandons this mad quest to get revenge on a city council that he feels has wronged him when he does not even live in the city anymore. I don't know. Anyway, um, we're wrapping up. This was episode 77. I'm constantly amazed and humbled. We have more new listeners. We have the numbers keep going up. It's just amazing how things are moving forward now. And I appreciate each and every one of you that took the time to tune in, to listen to me rant and rave and just talk bullshit about all this stuff. You're the real ones. You're the ones that matter. All of you, everybody out there. Even all you lawyers who are tuning in just to hear me say something inflammatory. You guys are dedicated. You folks are very dedicated. Even Miss Cuddalata. Cuddalata. That's a crazy name. Where'd you come up with that alias anyway? Cuddalata. Obviously, it's not real. But, and people are going to wonder, who's he talking about? Cuddalata? Anyway. Even you, so many of you, listening in, whether I like it or not. I hope you learned something, because I have a lot to say, and I talk a lot of good stuff. So that's it. That's all we got. I'm gonna get out of here. I have no idea what I'm talking about next week. I'll find out from the events of this coming week, and we'll see where the discussion goes. Until then, this was Uncanny Media, the show, episode 77. It's your good buddy Spider saying, don't rely on the village. Do the work. Do it yourself. It's worth it. Have a good night.